All right, welcome back. Today we're moving beyond printing things and we're going to learn how to make Python remember information, format it nicely, and interact with this. So let's create a new project. And as you can see before, we have our Learn Python directory, and we're going to call this project Lesson 4. Such creative names here. So just go ahead and have this Learn Python, and we are going to call this Lesson 4. All right, everything looks pretty good here, so go ahead and hit create. Okay, so I'm just gonna collapse this virtual environment, and I'm gonna create a new file, and I'm gonna call this, so clever with the names, you guys. I'm gonna call this file variables. Okay, here we go, variables. Let's go, let's get ready. All right, so as I was saying, the goal of this lesson is to teach you guys about how to make Python remember information and format it nicely. So let's say that I make these 3 print statements, and I'm going to go ahead and run this file by hitting Control R. And as you can see, monthly income 3,000, monthly expenses 2,100, monthly savings 900. Now let's say 1 month later, I want to update these print statements, and I want to instead have it print monthly income $3,500. And I'm going to add a little comment here. What is a comment? A comment are lines of code that are not executed by Python's interpreter, okay? So I'm going to write this information in here a month later, or let me just put 1 month later. And if I run Control R, you don't see anything about 1 month later, and you're also not getting an error. So if you ever want to make a comment in your code, you can make this single line comment, which is any text after this hashtag symbol. We can also create multi-line comments, and the way to do that, I'm just gonna paste this in here, and if I run Control R, you can see that there's no error, and then there's nothing printed to our output. This is a multi-line comment, and the way you do that is you use triple quoted strings to create these multi-line comments. And usually they're used for like giving some type of documentation or et cetera, but you'll always see in code, you'll always see comments everywhere, and comments are like a really good habit, to be honest, just to kind of give a little bit of a direction and give some information as to what it is that you're working on. So now that I just digress completely, once again, I have this print statement, monthly income 3,000, and all these other statements, and it's 1 month later, and I want to update. Okay, and so we have some repetition here. We have this monthly income at 3,000, and then a little bit further down, we have it 3,500. Same with the savings, 900, and then further down, 1,400. So every time our numbers change, we have to update everything manually. And so there's a better way, and that's using variables. What is a variable? Now, a variable is just a name that stores a value so we can use it later. Think of it like saving a contact in your phone, and instead of typing a full number every time, you assign it to a contact name. And now when you want to call them, you just use their name. And so Python works the same way. Instead of retyping values, we assign them to variables and refer to them by name. Now in Python, we assign a value to a variable using an equal sign. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to assign 3,000 to the variable name income. So I'm going to put income equals 3,000. So what I did was I assigned the value 3,000 to this variable income. All right. Now, anytime I use income, Python knows that I mean 3,000. So we could test this out by printing income. And if we look, we see that it says 3,000. Okay. All right, so let's add some more variables and use them in a calculation. All right, so I'm just going to remove that print statement really quick. And I'm going to assign 2100 to expenses. So expenses equals 2100. And I'm going to create another variable. And this one's going to call savings. And this is going to be income minus expenses. So essentially, I'm assigning the result of income minus expenses to this variable savings. And I'm going to go ahead and print. So let me go ahead and hit Control R to run the program. And we can see monthly savings 900. Let me just clean some of this up. I can get rid of this. Another thing that you can do is if you press Command and the /, that's automatically going to make those lines of code comments. But instead of doing that right now, I'm just going to actually delete this to clean it up a little bit. Okay, cool. So we have our income, which is 3,000. We've assigned 2,100 to expenses, and then savings equals income minus expenses. So what's happening here? Income holds 3,000, expenses holds 2,100, and savings stores the results of income minus expenses, which is 900. So now Python remembers these values so we can use them anytime. Now, what do I mean by remembers? Well, when I say that Python stores a variable and it remembers it, what Python is doing is it's storing this variable in memory. And I'm talking about your computer's memory. Your computer uses memory to keep track of information while program is running. And so when you assign a variable, Python stores the value in memory so it can be used later. And if you update a variable, Python replaces that old value with a new one. So let me show you an example of how you're able to update a variable. If I go to this next line and I say income equals 3,500, and then I print, I'm going to hit Control R to run the program. Did I hit it? There we go. Control R to run the program. And we have monthly savings is 900, but then we also have now income is $3,500. So at first the income is assigned to 3,000, but when you update it to 3,500, Python replaces the old value, and now income only remembers 3,500 and the previous value is gone. And another thing to think about is Python reads assignments from right to left. So Python always evaluates the right side first, then it stores the results in the variable on the left. So this savings, this is calculated first, income minus expenses equals 900, and then it stores it into savings. So I want to give you some quick variable naming rules, some do's and don'ts. Now, Python lets you choose any name for your variables, but there are some important rules you should follow. Use descriptive names so your code is easy to understand. So income, expenses, savings, it's quite descriptive of what that 3,000 means, what that 2,100 means. Use lowercase letters and underscores to separate words, and then start with the letter. So lowercase a to z, uppercase a to z, or an underscore. So let me give you a quick example. Monthly underscore income, and this is descriptive name once again, and expense underscore total. And they're both starting with lowercase letters. Now let's talk about some names that aren't good. For one, don't use spaces in variable names. Don't start with a number, and don't use special characters like the @ sign, $, percentage. So for example, so you see I added these names and it's yelling at me. PyCharm is yelling and saying like, yo, this is not it, okay? And this one contains a space right here. And then this one contains a hyphen, and instead you should be using an underscore. Stick to these simple rules and your variable names will work in Python. Okay, so I'm going to comment this out.